I want to call your attention to kind of point and purpose what we're here. So look at the sign, and it says next up. So we're focused on what's next up at BizFed Institute. And we're doing it in 3 ways. We're intelligent, we're inclusive, and we're impactful. So that's always our focus for gathering all of you to anything that we're focused on, is to do it in an intelligent, an inclusive, and impactful way, right? So thanks for being here, and we're always looking forward. So next up. The other thing today, I thought it was very clever that Rex, our chair of BizFed Institute, and Kevin and all the leaders, Dulce, chose to build this series, title it as Build Up. So we're next up, and now we're building up, and now we're doing a whole series. So I want to thank you guys for that, because we need to build up LA City, we need to build up LA County, we need to build up the greater LA region. And that's, again, the common denominator of why we're gathered here today. So I get Kevin always happily gives me the really good jobs at these things, which I appreciate. So I get to introduce the moderator of our first panel, and the first panel we're going to go right into is getting at it. You know, how do we structurally rebuild? How do we deal with insurance? And how do we fund all of this mess on the good luck side? But now we're going to get into how we actually do it. So we had to go out and recruit far and wide to get the best possible moderator we could find on the planet to tackle this panel. So Angela Gibson Shaw happens to be the fabulous BizFed board chair this year for 2025. But let me tell you why. Why is she the board chair of BizFed? Why is she our moderator today? So she is a public affairs veteran with over 40 years of experience. Angela brings extensive experience in small business outreach, community engagement, public relations. And you know what, Angela, kind of like Kevin, she's so deeply committed to advancing the general wealth for local, diverse businesses owned and operated by people of color primarily, and they're such an integral part of our whole community in Greater LA. She supports everyone, but she's doubling down on making sure that that works for expanded contracting opportunities, procurement opportunities that ultimately really get on the ground and drive job creation. So Angela, in addition to being the BizFed board chair, she's got a couple other things. She's busy. She serves as the president and CEO of the Greater LA African American Chamber of Commerce, or GLAC, we all know and love. They just had their big gala the other night, and everyone dressed up in their tuxes and their glitter and their glam to celebrate. But she also is chair of the LA County Small Business Commission. She's a member of the LA Mayor, who we're going to hear from shortly, so there'll be a little pomp and circumstance with LA Mayor Bass. We've got media in the room, so just want to keep you aware of all of that, and it's going to be exciting. But Angela's on the mayor's small business cabinet, so she's advising her day in and day out on how to get it done. She's also a board member of the LA African American Workers Public Policy Institute. Without further ado, Angela Gibson Shaw.
Good morning. Thank you, Tracy, for that beautiful introduction. And it's a pleasure to serve as the 2025 chair of BizFed, an organization dedicated to advocating for business-friendly policies that strengthen the Los Angeles economy. And I want to give, again, a shout out to Rex, Kevin, Blaine, and Dulce for convening this important discussion on rebuilding LA and the recovery of the wildfires. Today's discussion is going to focus on key issues related to rebuilding LA, and this panel is going to explore structural rebuilding, insurance, and funding sources. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for attending, and let's get right into it by first meeting our panelists. As I introduce you, please make your way to the stage. First up is Russell Johnson, Director of Government Affairs, Associated Builders and Contractors of Southern California. Alene Tabor, Counsel with Hanson Bridgett. Julia Juarez, Deputy Insurance Commissioner, California Department of Insurance. And Quenton Strode, CEO, Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation. I think I'm going to work from this podium because I got a lot of questions.
You have the tough job.
Yes. So welcome, panelists. Why don't we begin by taking a moment or two for each of you to introduce yourselves and talk about your organization.
Excellent. I guess I'll go first since I've got first chair. My name's Russell Johnson. I'm with the Associated Builders and Contractors. Oftentimes you'll see us represented by an acronym ABC. We are not the alcohol beverage control. We are not a TV station, but we are the Associated Builders and Contractors. So for the Southern California area, we cover a number of counties. We cover LA, Orange, Ventura, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. So pretty large area. Amongst our chapter, we have nearly 400 member companies. Those are contractors and suppliers that work in the construction space. And primarily what our contractors work on is we're building all facets of Southern California. We do public works, we do private works, we're doing hospitals, we're doing apartments, we're doing police stations, fire stations, but our members also build housing. So our members kind of cover a wide range of construction throughout Southern California. Another important point about the Associated Builders and Contractors, and something I think we're going to talk a little bit more about, is we run a workforce development training center. We have state and federally recognized apprenticeship programs, so we train folks to be skilled and trained in the construction workforce. We also have what's unique, it's called craft training, but it helps upskill the workforce that doesn't work in private and public works. They're not doing police stations, they're not doing fire stations. They're building, private work, such as like maybe an apartment building, maybe they're building a commercial building, maybe they're building housing. All of that is what our members work on. So our membership is broad, it's diverse, and we serve a diverse amount of folks for delivering construction projects. In a nutshell, our members build Southern California. And I will say one more thing before I allow someone else to introduce themselves. I want to thank BizFed, because BizFed from the beginning has been leading on the LA recovery issue and has been very helpful to us with the information sessions they're leading every Friday and sharing information with our member contractors. In fact, we polled our members, and nearly 80% of our member contractors that responded to the survey said they are looking forward to and interested in rebuilding efforts in LA. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Alene?
Good morning. My name is Alene Tabor. First of all, I am very proud to be a BFI board member, and I think it's a great organization, and hopefully some of the rest of you will think about joining that organization. I'm also an attorney with Hanson Bridgett. I have 38 years, I hate to say when I was counting them up, in land use and environmental. And prior to becoming an attorney, I actually was a city planner, and I also worked at the South Coast Air Quality Management District. So I always feel like I try to approach my issues with looking both at the technical side as well as the legal side. And I'm really happy to be here to be able to speak about some of the issues.
Thank you, Alene. Julia?
Good morning. My name is Julia Juarez. I am Deputy Commissioner for Community Relations and Outreach at the California Department of Insurance. The Department of Insurance regulates the California insurance market, which is the largest insurance market in the country. We are fourth in the world. And so insurance in California is very important. What happens here in California happens everywhere else in the country. And so we have been working with Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara to really revamp the way that we do insurance. Since Prop 103 passed about 30 years ago, we have seen that there have been several things that we need to improve in order to get our insurance market to be competitive again. We absolutely, the Department of Insurance is the largest consumer protection agency, particularly, around insurance. So we do have a lot of work that we do there, but we also need to make sure that the market itself is viable, that is strong and healthy. And so because of the wildfires starting in 2018, we have seen that the losses have been so great that a lot of insurance companies have just stopped doing business, new business in the state. And so we have been working very diligently in the department with the legislature and with all of our partners to find solutions. And so I am excited to talk about this and what are we, what we have been doing, and then what can we work with you on to make sure that that we keep moving forward and build back our insurance market here in the state.
Great, thank you. And Quenton.
I'm Quenton Strode. I am President and CEO of Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation. We've been around for 47 years. We are a small business support organization that's built a little funky. We own a couple shopping centers, and we have some SBA partnerships that are very nice, and very, very focused on the community. And in this case, we're primarily in South Los Angeles, but we actually cover all of Los Angeles County. And this situation in Altadena is, something that's surprising and couldn't be predicted. And we are trying to generate resources to be as supportive as we can.
Very good, thank you. As you can see, we have assembled the best and the brightest. And so I'm going to do a round robin of questions shooting at each of you in the time that we, does that say 10 minutes? Oh, okay, Julia, first up. How have recent wildfires affected the availability and affordability of residential and commercial insurance in California, and which industries do you see are struggling the most to secure adequate coverage?
Absolutely. So the fire starting in 2018 in Paradise actually just shook the industry, and we were very excited to be promoting and informing the community that our insurance market is was getting back up, and Mercury Insurance was actually saying that they were starting to do new business in Paradise, which was completely decimated. And as we were doing that, the fire started here, and it became the largest, most expensive wildfires ever in history. And so that has, of course, shaken the confidence of consumers as a whole. However, immediately after the fires, we have been working on the sustainable insurance strategy, which was very specifically looking at what would happen if something like this would happen. And so for the last 3 years, we put together some basically information to put together risk assessments to see what we can do as businesses, as homeowners, to bring down our risk, but then also give insurance companies the ability to do more business in the state. So we're working on catastrophe modeling and bringing a lot of that together. So we put a program together where we have actually been building this new set of rulemaking and catastrophe modeling that will be helping. And in the middle of all of that, we were able to do all of this within the state within 1 year. And now, immediately after the fires, the commissioner brought all of the major insurance companies together with the governor and said, let's discuss where are we. And actually, every single one of them said that they will be continuing to do business in the state because we have already started doing all of this work from the sustainable insurance strategy. We have been working on this, and so the expectation is that even though this is happening, because of the work that we're doing with catastrophe modeling, looking forward, in the past, the state would only look at the losses that had been done in the past, and so now we're looking at futures and being able to see very specific communities and homes and businesses, and so we are actually moving that forward, and the expectation is that we will have more insurance availability in the future.
Well, that's great to hear. And just so you guys can relax, that wasn't how much time we had left. That's the time. There's a clock that we're looking at, and it says 10:53, and I thought, and that's the time. Okay, we've got 20 minutes. Okay, thank you. Back on track. Okay, Quenton almost assembled the best and the brightest. How has VSEDC supported local homeowners and businesses in recovering from fire-related damages?
We got out early on and we're not in Altadena, but we got out early on and created partnerships with FEMA and the SBA to actually help them to process applications as people were moving into Los Angeles because they didn't have a place to live. Our work outside of that, though, really is now developing a fund that will allow us to go out into the community and make grants specific for Altadena because of its history as a black community. And a combination of grants and loans is actually what we're looking for, and initially looking to raise about $20 million. $20 million isn't enough to even make a dent in what that community needs right now, but it's a good start. And we think that we'll be at this for several years. So our work is really focused on creating a back office that will allow us to process applications, whether they be loans or grants, in a way that's organized, and also allow us to gather data to see how that support help those families and small businesses long term.
Very good. Grants and loans. Let's go to Alene. Alene, talk to us about legal and regulatory challenges that homeowners and businesses will face when rebuilding after the fire.
We probably could have a couple days about all of that, but I'm going to try to focus on a couple issues. One of them is soil contamination. We all know that the government's done a pretty good job of going through and removing debris, but removal of debris is not the same as soil contamination. And there are building code requirements that are going to require everybody to do a soil test. And so that is going to be a very big issue about how we move forward in terms of looking at soil contamination and where is all that soil going to go, for example. There's only so many landfills that are going to be able to take it. So it's going to become a very big problem, and it could really hold up the rebuilding. Another issue people don't really think about is the whole issue of Cal OSHA, because of the fact that people are going to be hiring contractors to come onto the site. Well, those workers that are coming onto the site are going to have to be protected under Cal OSHA regulations. And so making sure that, for example, the contractor that gets hired is going to be responsible for that, because the last thing we want to happen is a bunch of individual homeowners all of a sudden facing fines and violations for that. And then the third thing that I wanted to hit on was zoning and land use planning, because a lot of these communities were very established, and as time has gone on, zoning ordinances have changed, requirements have changed, the emphasis for the community has changed, and so all of a sudden people may find out that the use that they had put their property to, all of a sudden it isn't consistent with the zoning. And so what is going to happen in that particular situation? Or the fact that there's also a change in the development standards. So all of a sudden where your building was a couple feet from, the property line, all of a sudden what happens now if you have to be 10 feet on each side, the, building envelope that you have is severely reduced. So those are just a few of the issues to consider.
Mm-hmm. All righty. And Russell, tell us, how can business owners ensure their properties are rebuilt to be more resilient to future wildfires?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you touched on a couple of the things that are really important. First step, highly recommend, you really need to assemble a team of professionals. Professionals not only from a contractor standpoint, making sure you have a licensed contractor. Ask those contractors, who are you affiliated with? Do you have professional memberships? Are you part of a professional trade association like Associated Builders and Contractors, or another contractor association? Those things are important because it tells you a little bit about who they are, how they're invested in the community, how long they've been around. Look them up on the Contractor State License Board website. Make sure that they're licensed. Another thing is, when we're talking about some of the setbacks and some of the things that are involved, the mayor's executive order was really helpful in that it actually gave a little bit of flexibility to folks that want to rebuild to as is. And if you read the executive order, it really states that you can rebuild as you were, right? So, and that's not a direct quote, but it states you can rebuild as you were. So if you had a 0 lot line you're able to do so in the city of LA because it says you can rebuild as you were. Now, you're probably going to have to prove it. You're probably going to have to have pictures. You're probably going to have to do all this stuff. But there's questions homeowners should ask themselves. One is, how resilient do I want my next structure to be? Do I really want 0 lot lines? Because when a fire happens at the neighbor's place, if I have a 0 lot line, it's going to put me right in the line of fire, right? So that's a question that should be asked. Another question that should be asked is, hey, what building materials should I use? And your architects are really valuable at that. Number one thing, though, you're going to need defensible space. Now you ask, how can contractors help with this? Here's what's really, really critical. As folks are rebuilding, whether you're a business or whether you're a homeowner, you need to lean in on your team, your architects and your contractors, because as they go out and they bid that project, the materials the architect is listing in those plans, they may be fire resilient, but they may also cost you more, and the lead times to get those materials are maybe really, really problematic because of the demand for those materials. So if your goal, as we learned in the flash poll, is speed and getting rebuilt as quickly as possible, make sure you're asking your contractors, what does this do to my timelines? What does this do to my timeframes? And when you've got a good contractor, they're going to know what it means to acquire materials.
Very good. That's helpful information. Okay, back to you, Julia. What steps can businesses and residents take to ensure that they are properly insured against future wildfire risk?
So a couple of years ago, very much so, when talking to insurance companies and finding out what is it that why is it that they were having a hard time insuring folks, was very much so the risk is very high, and some of them were had too much risk in their books, and so that is why they decided to just dial it down. What we did was we brought all of the different organizations that deal with wildfires. So every single organization in the state, incredibly enough, was not speaking to each other. So when you were rebuilding, when you were trying to do something to mitigate your home, your city would have some rules, your county would have others, CAL FIRE would have others, and so then people there wasn't just a general rule. So what we created was the Safer from Wildfires framework, and what that is very specific things, 5 or 6 things that every homeowner and business can actually do to make sure that their home is safer from wildfires. And if you do those things, the regulation was changed so that then every insurance company must take those things into account and then be able to provide you some discounts for the work that has been done. So we are really working together to make sure that is happening as we are rebuilding. It is extremely important that people do pay attention to those things, because as they're going to come back to these communities, what insurance companies are going to look for is which are those homes and those businesses that have the least amount of risk, which are the ones that actually have built with these things in mind. And so there are very specific things, just your immediate home, your roof, your eaves, that kind of thing. Then your immediate surroundings, so your 5 feet of making sure there's no trees coming over your home, that kind of thing. And then it's the community togetherness. So basically, it is very much so, if you create a fire-wise community, it takes about 8 homes to create a fire-wise community. And what that is you look out for each other. So if you're, because if you're, your home may be very, very safe, but if your neighbor down the street catches on fire, this is coming to you anyway, right? So it is very much so the idea that you all, you look for each other, look out for each other, and if there is maybe an elderly person that cannot clear out their home, that everybody works together to help them. But the most important part about a fire-wise community is that they can also apply for funding from CAL FIRE or Cal OES that we have available. The state has put a lot of money into these programs so that they can actually apply for that funding and use that funding to mitigate their entire communities. And so that is very, very important. It's a big program that people can use, and some communities have used it as a chipper program so that everybody can clear out their areas and then bring it over. And so like once a month they do that. This is something that, it's an ongoing process. So when we are rebuilding, one of the biggest things that we're telling people, create Firewise communities, create those communities that are going to be able to work together so that we're not here 20 years later.
Oh, that's very important, Firewise community. I like that. Thank you. All right, Quenton, what advice would you offer to businesses that are navigating post-disaster funding?
I think this would be very similar to the pandemic a few years ago, where businesses needed to really pivot and take a look at what they were doing and look at doing it differently, or be creative in what your product is, whether it be a restaurant or you're actually manufacturing something, and find other uses for it. Vermont Slauson is a CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution, so we make loans. In my last answer, I didn't talk about the loans that we've made in the Altadena market and the Palisades, for that matter, where we've suspended payments for a period of time. We've suspended payments for a year for those who don't want to make payments on their loan, and giving them the option, if they want to just pay interest only. We'll probably extend that because of the extent of the damage that's out there. The other thing that I think is important is we're a founding member of a collaborative of Black-led organizations across LA County. A lot of us offer programming to our constituents free of charge. So, looking at what the LA Urban League did early on, what the LA Sentinel did early on and is still doing, the work of the Brotherhood Crusade, our work, Kevin bringing us together as BizFed Institute, the work that Robert's organization is doing. And Robert, I can never think of the name of your organization. But, us coming together, and GLAC for that matter, us coming together to take an approach that we're supporting small businesses with training or with coaching or with mentors to just help them think through how they pivot and what their business will look like in the future is a big deal. And, we haven't given the collective a name yet. We're still going through that. But we meet, and there's lots of excitement, and that support really across the board is there. I mean, my organization, for example, is doing 60 webinars a month right now. And, you could stack up what the Urban League's doing and stack up what GLAC is doing. There's a lot of support out there. We just got to find a way to publicize it in a much, much better way.
Yeah, we got to get the word out. Thank you. All right, Ms. Alene, are there legal requirements or incentives for making rebuilt structures more fire-resistant or environmentally sustainable? And what recourse do homeowners have if their insurance claim is denied or underpaid? That sounds like two questions.
Sounds like a lot of questions. Well, first of all, I think it's really important to think about the fact that the city only has control of certain requirements. There's a whole bunch of other agencies that are out there that individual property owners are all of a sudden going to be able to find out about, and are going to find out that there's all these regulations and all these fee requirements. So, for example, when you're rebuilding a property, all of a sudden someone's going to find out, hey, I've got to pay a school district fee based on the amount of square feet. I hadn't necessarily planned that was something that I was going to do. Another agency that people are going to find out about is air districts. So the South Coast Air Quality Management District's in the process of amending regulations that are going to affect residential water heaters and heating air conditioning systems. So all of a sudden, instead of having your traditional furnace, air conditioning unit, there's going to be a requirement that you have heat pumps. And how many, talk about supplies, how many heat pumps are we going to be able to get into the region in time for people to be able to develop their properties? Another regulation is going to involve water heaters, for example. So we're moving away under South Coast regulations from natural gas water heaters to electric water heaters. And again, where are we going to find that massive supply that we're going to be needing to do that? And I think all of a sudden, as you think about these regulations, people are going to be looking at their insurance, for example, and they're going to find out, hey, is my insurance just going to be for me to rebuild the value of my house? Or did I buy insurance that's going to provide that extra amount of money that I need all of a sudden to come into compliance with all of these individual regulations? So I would bet that you're going to get a lot of issues with that.
Wow.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
And also, just wanted to make sure that everybody knows the Department of Insurance does have a very robust consumer assistance program, and so it is very much that we have our 800 number. And I know 800 sounds you're going to be stuck somewhere, but it is actually we have our experts are on. And when you call them, they can actually walk through your insurance with you and make sure that you're getting the coverage that you're entitled to. However, we also have a program where we can help with remediation. We can also help with making absolutely sure that if you don't feel like there is something wrong, your insurance company is not getting back to you or anything like that. There is a difference between just you making a call to the insurance and for the for the organization that regulates the insurance company makes a call to the insurance, right? So they will be there and they'll be able to call them and help you get all of those things taken care of. We have already helped about 9,000 people throughout this entire time on this, and we are available for you. So please make use of that because it is something that it's you pay for with your taxes.
That's great. We've got the inside line. What's your number? No, I'm just kidding.
It is 800-927-4357. That is the general number. But of course, if you go into our website, it's just insurance.ca.gov, and you can use that there. Use the claim, file a complaint type of paperwork there. But also, if you don't want to talk to anybody, I know that a lot of people don't prefer not to do that. We have a chat feature. You're able to do that there. And of course, my contact information is available as well. If you can just Google, and I'm happy to
She'll be
help.
here all day.
And happy to help with that too.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, now that my home costs $1 million to rebuild, Russell, are there any programs or incentives for businesses and residences rebuilding with fire-resistant materials and sustainable methods? I need some discounts and incentives.
So I'm going to take this question, I'm going to answer it real quick, and then I'm going to talk about let's get real, right? So there are some programs. If you go to LA County Recovers website, it's the county website. It's really good. It's actually got a good initial kind of like walkthrough. Hey, build your team. Hey, do this. Make sure you have licensed professionals. And in there's also an incentives tab. And those incentives tabs really walk you through what's available. Now I will share this. Let's think of the rebuilding timeline as like a bell curve, right? So it's going to ramp up slow. And then as it gets building, it's going to be hot and heavy. And then as we go down the road, maybe 7-10 years from now, it'll taper off a little bit, right? So when you think about that, we polled our members and we said, hey, what's the number one thing that's going to be a problem for you in this rebuilding process? Number one thing was materials. Number two thing was permitting. Then we asked that same question again, what's the second most important thing? It was workforce development, or the lack of a workforce that we're going to need to be able to rebuild these projects. So as ABC is a workforce development training organization where we train 1,300 students roughly about this year in apprenticeship and construction craft trades, we're skilling up the professionals that are needed. But I will tell you, there's a lack of us, right? There's a workforce shortage in the state and in the nation. As a matter of fact, we need 439 more skilled trade professionals, 439,000 skilled trained professionals across the U.S. to replace the workforce that's going to retire this year. So we need a net gain of 439,000. It's just incredible what the need's going to be. So when we talk about rebuilding and we talk about incentives, the biggest incentive you're going to need is how do I rebuild on time and how do I rebuild on the budget if I'm rebuilding on a budget that's limited by my insurance payout, right? Or if I've got a little bit of money to maybe rebuild extra, how am I going to rebuild using the amount of funds that I have? And that's where the materials are going to become really critical, because even though there may be incentives to use additional fire safety rated materials, the cost could be really prohibitive. The time and lead time to get those materials may be a little prohibitive. And you might see people adjusting for rebuilding just to be able to rebuild to fit their budgets. And that's where the defensible space will likely become a more preventative addition for businesses and homeowners.
Great, thank you. And now we're going to take a minute each, and if you could wrap it up with your final thoughts that you'd like to leave with the audience, any additional resources or commentary or something maybe that I didn't ask. So we'll start with Quenton, and we'll just work our way back.
Yeah, this is going to be a really long-term thing, and underestimating what is on the table for people in Palisades and the Altadena, we're cutting ourselves short, I think. Creative opportunities for public and private partnerships, universities. This is LA. We can be creative, and we've been here before after the 1992 riots. But nothing has ever happened in this community like this. So I think this gives us an opportunity to be creative. I think there are some impact funds out there, or we could create impact funds to raise money to support people in helping them to get to where they need to be. I don't think the insurance industry as a whole is doing what they should be doing to support the community. So I think it falls back on us, government, corporations, nonprofits, and the like, to actually help and support the community come back in ways that everybody will be proud of.
Thank you. Julia?
One of the things that we are doing is we're working with the legislature to expand some of the things that we have done already. So after a wildfire, in the past, insurance companies would immediately just get rid of a lot of, just non-renew a lot of people. And so we do have a moratorium that we set up, that Commissioner Lara did when he was in the Senate. And so that has actually not allowed insurance companies to drop anyone in those areas, in those affected areas. And so you have 1 year that you can continue, keep your insurance, and then also look for other insurance availability throughout. That does not extend to businesses. And so what we are doing is we're working with the legislature to extend that to businesses as well. And so that is, we're doing some of that work now. We're also putting together some legislation to think of, to work on other programs that will be available to people. One of them is the Safe Homes Act, and it's putting together grants, something like the Brace and Bolt program for earthquakes. And that would be for homeowners to be able to then use that money to mitigate their homes. So what can, because that is expensive. And so how can we do that? And then we're also looking at different types of insurance that could be available, that local community programs can work on. And so that is also, that is, looking at parametric insurance, just different types of things that could be useful. And so those are the things that we're working on with the legislature right now. But ultimately, if you have any issues with your insurance company, if you have any issues, that you need more assistance, please contact the department, because we won't know if, let's say, if everybody's having the same issue and then you just get over it and move on. If we don't know that is happening, we're not able to address it. So please, even if you can live with it, contact the Department of Insurance anyway. File a claim, let us know that this is happening, so that then we can look into the issue and address it for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, what's that number, 1-800?
The number is 1-800-927-4357.
Very good. Thank you, Julia. Alene?
I guess I would like to see us get rid of arbitrary limitations. And let me give you one example. People can rebuild their property, they get benefits, but they can only go up to 110%. I don't know what that standard, for example, is based on, but there already are standards in place that regulate what the building envelope can be. And we're really taking away innovation and opportunity to build, for example, ADUs, if we're saying you're not going to get any of the benefits if your property is limited. Also, for example, Prop 13, there's the provisions in there, that if your property is destroyed, you have 5 years to rebuild. But we all know this is going to be, take maybe 20 years. So I think that's a place where we're talking about state legislation that we probably need to extend that 5-year time frame.
Very good, thank you. And Russell?
Yeah, closing thoughts, I want to leave you with 2 things. One is kind of some data I got from the city of LA just yesterday, so I think it might be helpful for folks to understand. So what's important is folks got to get their phase 1 clearance, and the phase 1 clearance in the city of LA is 100% complete, according to the city of LA building department yesterday. The phase 2, they've had about 3,500 folks opt in and about 1,100 folks opt out. If you haven't opted in or opted out, you really need to do it, because before you go to get your permit, they're going to make sure you need to have your phase 2 clearance. The other interesting tidbit is of the 207 permits that have been applied for in the current fire damaged areas, about 20 have been issued. So there's a little bit moving forward. Be patient. The mayor's executive order, while it's bold and ambitious, is ambitious, right? Be patient. Let them get the strike force up to speed. Let them do what they need to do. These are processes that have been built over years, and as we all know, when we work with government, these processes can be difficult. And if they can streamline them, roll back regulations, make life easier, we should all take away that lesson. And we should encourage them to always strive to make things easier and find ways to be more efficient, because we should strive for that in everything we do, whether we're government or whether we're business. And the last thing I'm going to leave with you is this, and I don't say this to be, I want to just be sensitive to everyone that may have lost a property in the fires. My sister lost a property in a fire, and from that it gives me a different perspective. She lost her property in the Angora fire way back in 2000, I think it was 8. But what I saw come out of it was hope and opportunity. And the hope and opportunity you're going to see for the workforce that's out there is, imagine these individual skilled craft professionals that are out there that now have an opportunity to form a little crew, go work and rebuild maybe some of these homes or some of these businesses, and the entrepreneurship you're going to see out of it. 10 years ago, everyone was all about, let me go work for a startup. If you want to work for a startup today, go work in construction, get a contractor's license, because that is where opportunity exists. And I just want to thank BizFed again for creating this opportunity and this dialogue. It's been really empowering. Thank you.
Excellent. How about a round of applause for our panelists? Don't go anywhere. We've got Q&A. We've got a few minutes of it, but based on all this great information that you guys have heard, do we have any questions? And somebody's got a microphone. Okay, this table here has got a couple of questions. Oh, here she comes. Ms. Tasia Kiefer.
Hi there. Can you elaborate on your statement about the 110% and not being able to go over that? Because that is not my understanding of the regulations as they stand in the executive orders.
So what ends up happening is that you can go beyond 110%, but you don't get the benefit of the expedited permitting process and those kinds of things if you're going to, build a lot larger than 110%. And all I'm saying is, what if you're going to put an ADU on the property, and that would cause you to go over the 110%? You might be at 115. You still should be able to get that streamlined process, because really what we want to do is get those homes rebuilt as quickly as possible.
So I can't speak for the county, but I know for the city of LA, that is, you can go over the 110% and receive the expedited review process, and an ADU is exempt if you decide to stay at the 110% as an eligible project. And so I think it's super important that we give really clear, concise information, because unfortunately a lot of people are deciding not to rebuild, thinking that they can't go bigger. And in the city of LA, you can and still get the 30-day expedited review process. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Robert Cicero, President and CEO of Community Build. I'm Robert. I'm the Robert that Quenton was referring to. Can everyone say Community Build? Okay.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Your
So
question, please.
here's my question. I'm sorry. Important. I want to address this with Julia. First and foremost, the COIN program, as most people don't know, California Organized Investment Network was the insurance industry's volunteer CRA requirement program. I'll just simplify it. But with Quenton here and other CDFIs, is there a conversation we should be having with the commissioner about redeploying some of those funds as first money in, or partnering with the pension funds as insurance backfill to urgently deploy cash? Because there's billions of dollars that the insurance companies put into that program, but very little of it hit Southern California. So I want to put that out there. And then with regards to the water heaters, there is a move afoot with local organizations like ours to fight against that SQ, the air quality, because it's going to cost Californians $300 million a year to implement that electric water heater program. So we are fighting against that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Get the mic from this guy. No, I'm just Mr. Community Build. Okay, we also have the Urban League in the house. Miss Cynthia. These are some organizations. I saw some hands. Oh, back here. Okay.
Oh, yes, thank you. I really appreciate what you said about hope and opportunity for those of us who are rebuilding, who lost our homes or our businesses or our fourplexes, of which I lost all three. And because people look you in the eye and they say, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. We don't have time to feel sorry for our loss. And it's a little insulting, only because I understand what people mean, but when they look at an investor, they don't say, I'm sorry for your loss. Where they say, oh, this is an opportunity for you. This is a opportunity for the attorneys. This is an opportunity for anyone in construction. They stand to benefit from this. And what are we doing to make sure that those who are paying the cost and have to rebuild can also benefit from this situation? And it's not just a loss, because loss means that we won't recover. And most of us know, not some of us who read that the Bible says beauty for ashes. So yes, I'm looking for the beauty in this, and as those of us who are rebuilding, to make sure that we're not left behind. And the system is this expectation that we won't be able to rebuild, because it's not set up to help us. It's set up to help the investors, the contractors, and you mentioned the issue of the 10% limit. Everywhere I go, they say, oh, as long as you don't build over 10%, you'll be okay. Stay in your place, stay in your position. Who wants to build what they built before? If you're going to spend all the time to rebuild, why wouldn't you want to do bigger and better or modernize it? Because you have to take the time. We're the ones who have to pay the cost. We're the ones who have to take the time to rebuild, to hire the contractors, to deal with everything that other people benefit from. But they're saying, but we can't benefit. We'll be penalized. My building was built in the 1970s. It's a fourplex, one of them. So 700 square feet for a two-bedroom. Why would I rebuild that now? 10%, 770, that's unrealistic. People want larger closets. They want larger garages. So yes, that's unrealistic. And what do we need to do for those of us? We're not trying to build a mansion. We're just trying to make it modern by current day standards. Why are we being expected to stay back in the past? And for this community that was built back in the 50s and the 70s, when there were a lot of restrictions against African Americans, why are we now saying we're going to hold those same restrictions against you when you get ready to rebuild? That is continuing some of the inequalities. And so, yes, we do need to address those issues and make sure that we can rebuild without being penalized, without our property tax going up. Yes, they're saying your property tax are going up. That's who made that rule, the limit 10%. Why isn't it 50%? Why isn't, look at what's standard for a two-bedroom and based on that, or what's standard for a three-bedroom and base it on that. So that is my question. Another thing is power lines. Any new community they rebuilt, they put the power lines underground. And as someone who has not only power lines across my property, but a pole on my property, the fire department was on my property the day of the fire, probably most likely because of that pole. Why are we not building the fire lines underground?
You know what? I think the utilities will be addressed in the second panel, and I certainly appreciate your comments regarding rebuilding the way that you want to. What did you say, Blaine? I got, 2 minutes or 2 questions? We got 2 minutes and the narrow meter at 11:30. Exactly at 11:30, folks. Okay, who's got the last question? Because I know it's going to be. Okay, Tasia's got it. Okay.
They still need an answer to her question.
What was the question? I heard the commentary. I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to know, what are they doing to help homeowners rebuild and based on modern day standards and not be penalized by that 10%?
I think it's legislation.
I believe that that would be. I know that we're, with the insurance portion of that, what your policy should be able to cover the not just what it will cost to rebuild, but then also looking at all of the different fees that will go along with that, all the different upgrades that will go along with that. But of course, most of us are underinsured. Because at the end of the day, what insurance companies sell is, what would be more feasible for you. You're looking at like the least amount of money rather than the most amount, what does it cost to actually rebuild? And so that there's a difference there. Now, with the state.
I just wanted to say I totally agree with you, and that was the point I was trying to get at, is that there needs to be some legislation, there needs to be rethinking about what those standards are, because everybody wants to have, if they're going to rebuild your house, you're going to want to come into, a more modern, cost-effective development, and also think about the fees as well. I think we need to do something about that.
All right, very good. And I'm getting the hook sign here. And so again, let's give a round of applause to the panel. Okay, and folks, we're going to stay for